Is Canada on the brink of collapse? Or has Alberta already made the first move towards something far bigger than anyone expected? Because as of June 2025, a stunning report out of Edmonton has ignited political firestorms from Vancouver to Ottawa to Washington, D.C. What started as a quiet financial negotiation has now exploded into what some are calling the biggest constitutional crisis in Canadian history. And at the center of it all? Alberta, proud, rich in oil, and absolutely fed up. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Donald Trump just offered Alberta something so outrageous, so unprecedented, it might actually work. What is it? Statehood. Full American statehood. This isn't just political drama. This is a geopolitical earthquake. Behind closed doors, insiders are whispering about Operation Eagle North, Trump's unofficial plan to expand the U.S. border by absorbing Alberta as America's 51st state. It sounds insane, right? But Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has already held 2 unannounced meetings with senior U.S. officials in the last 10 days. And according to one source close to the talks, the Americans are dead serious. So how did we get here? And why now? Let's rewind just a few weeks. Tensions between Alberta and Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal government had reached a boiling point over the Federal Energy Transition Act, legislation that would force provinces to phase out oil production by 2035. Carney, backed by his Climate First coalition, insists the policy is non-negotiable. But in Alberta, where oil fuels not just the economy but the very identity of the province, this was the final straw. Alberta responded with a bold move, passing Bill 203, the Provincial Sovereignty and Energy Protection Act, which declares federal environmental restrictions null and void within Alberta's borders. In simple terms, it's a constitutional standoff. But here's where things get wild. Within 48 hours of that bill passing, Trump's team reached out. Not to negotiate, not to mediate, but to offer a way out. Sources in Montana and North Dakota have confirmed increased diplomatic chatter between U.S. governors and Alberta's economic attaches. In fact, Montana Governor Jake Remington reportedly told a closed-door summit that Alberta is more American than half our blue states. And while Ottawa was scrambling to contain the fallout, the polls inside Alberta are shifting fast. According to the Western Sovereignty Institute, 58% of Albertans now support holding a statehood referendum, with support among 18 to 35-year-olds soaring to over 70%. Many see it as a path to economic prosperity, freedom from Ottawa's centralized control, and guaranteed protection under the U.S. Constitution. But it's not just about oil or taxes. It's about identity. Because to many in the West, Canada has become unrecognizable. National debt is at record highs, defense spending has collapsed, and faith in federal leadership is crumbling. Even BC and Saskatchewan are watching closely. One former BC cabinet minister said, "If Alberta jumps, we have to ask ourselves, do we stay with Ottawa or follow the money south?" But what does Trump really gain? Why is the U.S. so eager to welcome Alberta? The answer lies underground. Alberta holds an estimated $10 trillion in untapped energy and rare earth resources, the very materials the U.S. needs to outcompete China. Trump's energy secretary has already proposed fast-track integration of Alberta into the U.S. energy grid, bypassing Canadian oversight entirely. Imagine a North American energy corridor running from Texas to Fort McMurray, controlled entirely by U.S. regulators. That's not just trade, that's dominance. But don't think Ottawa is going down without a fight. Carney has threatened severe sanctions on any province that violates federal law, and in a fiery speech yesterday, he warned, this is not just about Alberta. It's about the soul of Canada. But here's the problem. His words may have come too late. Economic indicators show capital flight from Alberta-based businesses relocating their headquarters to Denver and Minneapolis. Even Royal Bank of Canada analysts admit that we may be witnessing the end of economic unity in Canada. And just this morning, an anonymous official from the Canadian Armed Forces hinted at an emergency mobilization order, not against foreign threats, but internal dissent. Military units stationed in Western Canada have been told to prepare for rapid deployment scenarios. And yet, public sentiment is only growing more rebellious. In Red Deer, Calgary, even rural towns like Slave Lake, you can now spot American flags flying beside Alberta's, not as protest, but as preparation. So where does this all go? Does Alberta become America's 51st state? Does Ottawa trigger a constitutional crisis? Does Trump get the ultimate win, redrawing the map of North America with one deal? Or does Mark Carney somehow pull off the impossible and stop this tidal wave before it crashes through Parliament Hill? There are whispers now of a September vote, a non-binding referendum that would ask Albertans one simple question: do you wish to join the United States of America as a full state? It's not official. Not yet. But if even half of what's being discussed behind closed doors is true, this could change the course of history forever. And remember, this isn't the first time Alberta has threatened to go its own way, but it is the first time someone powerful is saying, "We'll take you." Imagine waking up next year and seeing Alberta, not as a Canadian province, but as part of the United States. Imagine the ripple effects: trade realignment, political chaos, national identity shattered. And then ask yourself, what happens if Saskatchewan follows? What happens if BC votes to secede? What happens if this isn't the end of Canada, but the beginning of something entirely new? One nation dies, another rises. And it might all start right here in Alberta. This isn't a headline. It's a warning. Don't just watch history unfold, be part of it. Hit like, slam that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next.